Alright, so keeping with the now running gag of me not having appropriate wardrobe for these videos, surprisingly, I don't have a Ninja Turtle shirt. Which is incredible because Ninja Turtles is like one of my favorite things ever. So we're going with Ghostbusters because they had a crossover with Ghostbusters in the comics. That's all I got. So Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is the newest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series brought to us by Nickelodeon, who seems to love churning these out ever since they got a hold of the property. Though the show is a sequel to the 2023 film Mutant Mayhem, which I actually have seen, and I liked it. It's definitely not my favorite Ninja Turtles, but I liked it. It had a lot of fun stuff you'd expect from Ninja Turtles. There was a lot of action, it was very weird, there was gross stuff in it. You know, a family picture. I did have some small gripes with it, though. The voice cast was really good, but a couple of the voices I weren't really into. Donatello in particular sounded way too young for what he was supposed to be. I mean, obviously they're teenagers, and, you know, the more we move forward, the more they seem to want to focus on the teenager aspect of the Ninja Turtles, but I did feel like the voice was a little bit too young sounding, and I think I heard that complaint from a lot of other people. The movie was done in what is, I guess, now referred to as the Spider-Verse style, which is great, and as much as I do love the Spider-Verse movies, the style, while visually appealing, and I do mean that, I do like the visuals, my only problem with it is how few frames there are in the animation. We'll come back to that when we talk about the actual show. In the movie, they, you know, as much as I love Ninja Turtles, sometimes I am reminded of how old I am, because there are moments in the movie where they bring up stuff like TikTok and Attack on Titan, and whenever I hear stuff like that, my eyes just glaze over and I go, ugh. I'm old. Probably one of the most noticeable changes of this version of Ninja Turtles was how Splinter was portrayed. So, Splinter, in this version, they seem to be leaning more towards the dad aspect, you know, the father figure, because he's kind of a very protective father in this one, and he's had that aspect before, but I feel like, you know, we're used to Splinter being the wise, elderly, dignified martial arts master that he's been in so many different versions of Ninja Turtles, and while I feel like, you know, every version of Ninja Turtles needs to be different because the series has been going on for so long that they need to feel distinct from one another. But I think that not having him be that in a Ninja Turtles movie or show, I feel like something is severely lost. But like I said, I did enjoy the movie a lot, and with how it ended, I was kind of wondering where they were going to go from here, because very clearly this was meant to be the new Ninja Turtles, so where were they going to go? Were they going to do another movie? But no, they came out and did a full-on TV series. And because of that, this is now the first Ninja Turtles show that is directly connected to a theatrically released film, because everything else up to this point has been mostly standalone. Like, the cartoons never really had anything to do with the movies, and, I mean, there was Turtles Forever, which connected, you know, the original 80s show with the 2003 Ninja Turtles, but that wasn't a theatrically released film. That was direct-to-video. So this is actually a first for the series. And almost all of the voice actors from the movie actually returned for this show, with a couple of exceptions, one being Splinter's voice actor. In the movie, he was voiced by Jackie Chan, and in this show, he's technically voiced by Fred Tatasciore, but he doesn't speak words, because he speaks what they call vermin, which is like squeaks and, you know, other animal noises. And the reason why he does that is because he's currently dating Scumbug, who also doesn't speak, and he's speaking like that now so he can communicate with her. Yeah, it's kind of a long story. Also, I didn't realize this, but Scumbug in the movie and the show is voiced by Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls. Also, the show visually is very similar to Rise of the TMNT, the previous series, which I think I did a review on a long time ago, and I didn't really like it, although everybody around me has insisted that it's really good. Maybe I'll give it another try at some point, but that's beside the point. The shows do have very distinct looks to them in the character designs and everything, but I feel like if you were to take random screenshots from both shows and show it to someone, they might just believe they're all from the same show. I mean, they obviously are very different if you're familiar with both shows, but I feel like they should have strayed a little bit further away, at least in terms of the visuals, especially considering that Rise ended not too long ago, and then they suddenly, came out with this show, which is basically what happened when the 2012 show ended, and then Rise came out just not long after it. On a side note, we really, really need to have longer breaks in between stuff like this. We can't just keep putting out a brand new show months after a previous one had ended. We need time to breathe. As far as the animation goes, during the action sequences, it does look really good, but it also has the low frame rates as the movie with the Spider-Verse style. And I've said it before, I don't really care for that too much. And it feels very distracting, and I've seen it done in a lot of other things too. Most notably was The Dragon Prince, the Netflix show. The first season, they did the exact same thing. They had very low frame rate animation, and a lot of people complained about it. And they said, oh, well, we want it to be more like a comic, which I think is what they were going for with this as well. Though a lot of people still complained with Dragon Prince, and they ended up changing it for the next seasons for the show, and moving forward, they didn't do that anymore. And I'm kind of wondering if they're going to do it with this show. I don't know if people have been complaining about it, but I do find it kind of distracting seeing, very limited movement when stuff is, even though stuff is not happening, but it's just not really my thing. One thing to note about this show, though, is the Ninja Turtles are public figures. Typically, for Ninja Turtles, they got to stay in the shadows, they got to stay out of the public eye, they don't want people to freak out or anything. But because of the events of the movie, the public knows about them and are pretty well liked, too. So oftentimes they'll be out in public and someone will be like, hey, Leo, can I get a selfie? Or, something like that. So it feels like it's the complete opposite of a lot of the previous versions. Although I feel like maybe at some point this could cause problems within the story. Maybe they're getting too much attention. So as of right now, I've only seen season 1 because that's all that's out right now. But one thing that stood out to me about this show is the consistent storytelling. So season 1 is made up of 2 story arcs. And the way it works is the storyline will start, and then the next couple episodes will each focus on one of the turtles, dealing with things, fighting someone, etc. And then everything will all come together later on. And I kind of really liked it like this because you got a sense of, what was happening over here, what was happening over here. And at the same time, it gives us a good chance to get to know each one of the turtles on an individual basis. Although, for this version of the Turtles, I feel like, while they were very distinct from each other, I feel like they are, in this, a little bit less distinct than they've been in previous versions, if that makes any sense. I mean, you can definitely tell them apart, and, Raph's the hot-headed one, Mikey's more laid back, although Mikey seemed a little bit low energy than he normally is. But I feel like there could have been a little bit more distinction between them personality-wise. So the first story arc is about Josephine Bishop. Bishop is the name of a character that, recurs throughout many different versions of Ninja Turtles. In this one, she's an inventor, and she builds robots, and they establish that the events of the movie kind of ruined her work, and as a result, she's hating mutants and she wants them gone, and so she's building robots to go after the Ninja Turtles. It's also nice that they had some really good attention to detail and consistent plot, and I did like how we got to know her a little bit, and she's not just some crazy inventor with, who's very one-dimensional. She had a lot going on with her as a character. The second story arc is essentially a heist, and it involves these mutants called the East River 3, which are mutants who were made during the events of the movie, off camera. They're sea creatures that lived in the East River. One thing I do like is that we don't usually get a lot of aquatic mutants. I mean, there are some out there, Ray Fillet, who's in this, and, occasionally we see another one, but I feel like it's very untapped using sea creatures for Ninja Turtles enemies. But like I said, I actually really like these three. The electric eel's name is Lee, and she's very self-conscious because Lee spelled backwards is eel, and she was she was kind of freaking out over that. Also, Danny Trejo voices the seahorse, and they kept doing jokes about him and his kids because, you know, the male seahorses are the ones that carry the children, so there was a whole bit with that. Also, Goldfin, the little goldfish guy, voiced by Timothy Oliphant. What are you doing in this? Like, it's weird. They had Splinter not being able to talk. I'm wondering if they just couldn't get Jackie Chan for the TV show, because that's who voiced him in the movie. And now I'm wondering, like, they couldn't get Jackie Chan, but for some reason Timothy Oliphant is playing what might end up be a recurring villain. It's like what do you mean? The second story arc also focused a lot on the side characters. So in the movie, they established a lot of other mutants, and all of them are, you know, recognizable characters from throughout Ninja Turtles. There was Rocksteady and Bebop, Wingnut, Scumbug I mentioned, Ray Fillet, and Leatherhead, and Mondo Gecko. So we get to see some of them in this. They're, again, almost all voiced by the same characters. I think Genghis Frog is the only one who had a different voice actor. But I feel like they could have focused on the mutants a little bit more. I mean, it is kind of weird, too, that some of them who are typically Ninja Turtles villains are, you know, allies now, like Rocksteady and Bebop. Unfortunately, they were not in the show. I think they were mentioned once, but they never showed up. They were also voiced by Seth Rogen and John Cena in the movie, and I'm kind of wondering if we see them again, if they're going to have the same voice actors, or if they're going to replace them with someone else. Also, Mondo Gecko was not in the show at all. He's one of my favorite Ninja Turtles side characters. Shame on you for leaving him out. And even though we saw some of the other ones, I feel like they were still a little bit underutilized. I think Wingnut, of all of them, got the most screen time and most dialogue. So I would really like to see more of the side characters, because that, to me, is always one of the shining bits of the Ninja Turtles. There's so many fun, interesting, and weird side characters that I really hope we get to see them focus on more of those in the future. Oh, and please, for the love of God, do Casey Jones right in this if you're going to bring him in. Also Usagi, if we get that far. I was actually surprised that they didn't really follow up on the film that much. I mean, of course, they mentioned, you know, a lot of the aftermath of what happened, and they did touch on the people that are after the Ninja Turtles at the end of the first story arc. But here's the thing. At the end of the movie, this was kind of spoilers, but they established Shredder. I mean, I hate to spoil things in these videos, but if I had mentioned it, you were probably going to figure out who it was anyway. But yeah, they alluded to Shredder showing up, but there was absolutely no sign or indication of Shredder in the show at all. They completely forgot that plot point. Maybe they'll do it in you know, a later season or a later episode or something. But I really wish they had, you know, at least established something. Although, I am a little bit concerned with Shredder in this one, because the way they have Splinter established, him and Shredder have absolutely no connection. Like, this Splinter is just a rat who is in the sewer. He's not Hamato Yoshi. He's not the rival of Oroku Saki. So I am kind of wondering how this is all going to play out, because that's been a typical thing in like almost every version of Ninja Turtles. Like, he's either Hamato Yoshi or he is a rat who, like in the original live action movies, he was, you know, a rat who was a pet of Hamato Yoshi and he learned from him. But here they have nothing. There's just no connection between the two characters, who typically have like the strongest connection of any of the characters. And that is probably my biggest gripe with this whole thing. As much as I have been enjoying some of it, that it's just a lot of the key elements, a lot of the core elements of this series, you know, Ninja Turtles, seem to be left out of this. You know, Splinter not being, you know, the wise martial arts master, and then Shredder, who's I guess just gonna show up. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. But I feel like it's not really gonna be the same, and it's obviously it can't be the same. Like I said, so many Ninja Turtles shows and movies that they all have to have something different. But I feel like this is just kind of like an empty hole in the story, you know? But I still enjoyed it quite a bit. I feel like I enjoyed it about as much as the movie, which I suppose is a good thing. It's, again, not my favorite Ninja Turtles, but I think it is a okay addition to Ninja Turtles. I mean, Ninja Turtles is one of those concepts, it just works, you know? It stands on its own absurdity. And we've had so many TV shows and movies of Ninja Turtles that they've rarely had a miss. I mean, they've had misses. Oh boy, have they had misses. Ugh. But there's still a lot to enjoy about this one, I think, and it's far from the worst version. And I think I feel like the first impression for me was a lot better with Rise. Like I said, people keep telling me Rise is really good, and maybe one day I'll give it another chance. But I felt a little bit more comfortable with this show than I did with how Rise started. So I guess that is something to be said about this. So we'll see how far this one goes and see how well it does. But that's all I got for Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of it. And which movie or TV show of the Ninja Turtles do you think is the best? My name is Rob, and have a wonderful day.